UNICEF warns that Gaza faces an explosion in preventable child deaths as people have access to less than 1 liter of safe water per day.
An international police operation has dismantled the LockBit ransomware group, considered the most harmful in the world.
Lufthansa employees went on strike for the second time this month, canceling 90% of flights and affecting around 100,000 passengers. UNICEF warns that the Gaza Strip is poised to witness an explosion in preventable child deaths. A steep rise in malnutrition among children and pregnant women poses grave threats to their health, according to a report released by Global Nutrition Cluster. Households have access to less than 1 liter of safe water per person per day. Hungry, thirsty, and weak, more Gazans are falling sick.
مفيش حاجة ناكلها اليوم ناكل دمسة عدس كنا ناكل زمان دجاج ورز اليوم كله عايش على المعلبات كنا زمان نتعشى وننام بس الحين ما نتعشاش بننام بدون عشاء اخواني يعني صاروا ضعاف قبل كانوا يعني كويسين الحين ما في شيء الحياة اتدمرت.
The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees shared aerial and ground footage showing schools in the Gaza Strip damaged by Israeli bombardments. In North Gaza, schools are unrecognizable, reduced to rubble, the agency said Monday in a statement on social media platform X. The UN aid agency says 153 installations have been attacked since the war began on October 7.
Boosting the European defence is one of the priorities of the current European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, who just announced her bid for a new term in office. Following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the EU member states already increased their military expenditure from €240 billion in 2022 to €280 in 2023 and €350 projected for 2024. Now the Union wants more cooperation.
We have to spend more, we have to spend better, and I think we have to spend more European to consolidate our defence industrial base.
The first step will be a European defence industrial strategy, which will be presented in the next few weeks. Ideas include the common purchase of military capabilities similar to the COVID-19 vaccines. Another solution could be EU-issued debt to finance defence expenses. However, according to Dylan Macchiarini-Crosson, researcher at CEPS, it won't be easy to approve new measures.
At the moment, there's no agreement amongst EU member states, for example, on the joint purchasing by the EU on behalf of the EU member states of defense equipment from third countries or private companies. At the same time, also discussions about Euro defense bonds are still very much up in the air with no concrete political agreement in sight.
While policymakers at the Commission are working out the legalities, some member states seem to be reluctant or want to introduce conditions. France, for instance, insists on only buying weapons and ammunition produced by European companies. Currently, member states with a bigger defence expenditure compared to their GDP are Poland, Greece, Estonia, Lithuania and Finland, but they are not exclusively buying weapons made in Europe. If von der Leyen remains in power, it's almost certain a European Commissioner will be assigned to the entire portfolio of defence, a job currently split between Foreign Affairs High Representative and Internal Market Commissioner.
Hungary is preparing to ratify Sweden's accession to NATO. On social media, the leader of the ruling Fidesz parliamentary group announced that he had asked the president to include the final vote on the parliamentary agenda for next Monday. Mate Coxes said they intend to support Sweden's entry into the Atlantic Alliance. On Saturday, Prime Minister Viktor Orban already said they were on track to ratify the accession, emphasizing the, quote, important steps taken to re-establish trust.
Crucial week for WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. The British justice is deciding whether or not he's extradited to the United States. Hundreds of protesters gathered outside the Royal Court of Justice in London to show him their support at the beginning of the two-day extradition appeal. His wife is leading the demonstrations.
It's an attack on all journalists all over the world. It's an attack on the truth, and it's an attack on the public's right to know. Julian is a political prisoner, and his life is at risk. What happened to Navalny can happen to Julian.
Assange's father and half-brother Gabriel were present at the hearing in the UK. They are campaigning full-time in Australia to get him released. The Australian Parliament last week called for Assange to be allowed to return to his homeland. In 2018, Assange was charged in the US with complicity in hacking government computers. In 2019, 17 charges of violating espionage laws were added. If convicted of all charges, he could face a maximum prison sentence of 175 years.
Polish farmers have once again blocked border crossings with Ukraine and traffic in Warsaw. Their main demand is withdrawal from the so-called Green Deal being pushed forward by the European Commission and to curb the uncontrolled import of agricultural products from Ukraine.
Zalewa nas ta żywność z Ukrainy i ten bałagan unijny, to na głowie wszystko stoi.
Próbujemy coś ugrać w tej trudnej sytuacji, bo import dalej nie jest zatrzymany, a o to głównie walczymy. Chcemy sprzedać swoje płody rolne, no nie? A cena jest nikła.
Czekamy na ruch rządu. Mamy nadzieję, że coś zrobią w naszym kierunku. Jeżeli nie zrobią, będziemy protestować do końca.
In retaliation, Ukrainian farmers are threatening to limit imports of Polish agri-food products if Polish farmers do not stop blocking the country's borders in Ukraine.
Lufthansa employees went on strike for the second time this month. The ground staff strike began early Tuesday morning and is scheduled to last until Wednesday morning. The company canceled around 90% of flights, affecting around 100,000 passengers.
Finde ich schon okay, weil der Arbeitgeber wird nicht von sich aus kommen und mehr Geld anbieten. Also muss schon ein bisschen Druckmittel hinter sein.
Ja gut, jeder muss mal streiken, aber verstehen tue ich es nicht, dass man das so unkoordiniert macht. Und es sollen ja auch, glaube ich, morgen Verhandlungen stattfinden. Da hätte man ruhig warten können.
The strike is in response to the ongoing wage negotiations for the approximately 25,000 Lufthansa employees on the ground.
Sagen wir mal, die letzten 2-3 Jahre waren extrem für das Bodenpersonal auch herausfordernd, um es vorsichtig zu formulieren. Und von der Arbeitgeberseite kam relativ wenig. Und jetzt kam irgendwann die Entscheidung, es reicht. Die Angebote reichen den meisten nicht. Und die Solidarität zeigt sich eben mit dem Dabeisein und wir stehen dahinter.
The union is demanding a 12.5% pay raise for employees and an inflation adjustment bonus of 3,000 euros. The wage negotiations are set to continue on Wednesday. Thousands of Ukrainian refugees went to Serbia when the war started. Some of them then continued to Western Europe. Others remained. In parallel, thousands of Russians decided to leave their country and move to Serbia, mostly due to the forced conscription into the Russian army. Serbian estimates say 150,000 Russians and 16,000 Ukrainians live in the Western Balkan country. Xenia moved to Serbia from Sakhalin, a city in the Russia Far East, just after the war started and settled in Novi Sad.
When it all started, we felt very bad. We've been crying for a couple of days. And I felt like being in a cage. I feel my maybe not guilt, but responsibility, because in my name, my country is killing people in neighboring country.
Due to EU visa requirements, Serbia considers the Russians as refugees. The Ukrainians who remained in Serbia say they want to return to their country. Ivana's husband is currently in Kyiv after 1 year fighting on the front.
Две години з супругом не видимося, з Майкою і з сестрою жили у граду Кам'янець-Подольському. Лепо в Сербії, але у Кучі лепше у Кучі.
According to the official figures so far, about 80,000 Ukrainians, refugees, have been going through Serbia and settled into the EU.
An international police operation has dismantled the LockBit ransomware group, considered the most harmful in the world. 14 countries took part in Operation Kronos. 34 servers have been closed in the Netherlands, Germany, Finland, France, Switzerland, Australia, the US and the UK. 2 people were arrested in Poland and Ukraine. More than 200 cryptocurrency accounts were frozen.
Actors affiliated with the LockBit criminal enterprise have caused significant harm to thousands of victims across our collective countries and around the globe. In recent years, the group has been indiscriminate in their targeting, exploiting organizations affiliated with government agencies, hospitals, schools, to high-profile global companies.
The group carried out more than 1,700 attacks against victims in the United States and around the world. 80 years after his execution by the Nazis, Mizak Manouchian's remains will be transferred to the French Pantheon on Wednesday. The Armenian, known as a poet and communist activist, will be the first foreigner to be buried among France's national heroes, accompanied by his wife Mélinée. Manouchian was executed at Mont Valérien Fort on the outskirts of Paris on the 21st of February 1944. His recognition by the French state is a tribute to all the foreign resistance fighters who fought against Nazi oppression.